All right, welcome to Bet the Edge. I'm Jay Croucher here with Drew Dinsick. As always, today we're going to talk about the Sunday slate of NFL games. We'll talk Week 12 openers and then wrap with some discussion of a fairly monstrous Monday Night Football game between the Eagles and Chiefs. We'll get to that at the end. But first, Drew, what were your big takeaways from Sunday?
Monstrous for a different reason than most of the primetime games we're talking about. Monstrous to the good. I mean, the most important thing that happened this week happened on Thursday, right?
Yeah, I agree. It was a strange Sunday where a lot happened. It felt largely much ado about nothing, though. I'm not sure anything really changed in a meaningful sense.
Yeah, we agree. Good win, outright win for the Packers. Needed that one. That was nice. Good cover by the Bears. Oh, so close to upsetting the Lions. That would have been pretty tasty. Commanders with the chance to really assert themselves for playoff consideration in the wild card spot. Just completely dumping that game to the Giants was weird. Steelers Browns was about as ugly as you would have expected. No Tomlin voodoo this time as the Browns come through 3-point wins. But yeah, the most important thing in terms of the fabric of the championship pursuit of 2023 is that Joe Burrow is no longer part of it. That was a weird injury that he sustained on Thursday Night Football, and really just huge, tremendously big weekend for Ravens futures holders. Like, not just the win against Cincinnati, but now the Browns losing their quarterback and still finding a way to beat the Steelers was huge for their equity in terms of getting a 1 or 2 seed. I still have huge questions about the Ravens, and I'm sure, revisit those in the coming weeks as they have some pretty high profile matchups. But they were the biggest winners of Week 11, and I think it was not close. Like that was huge for them. The Dolphins with kind of an ugly win against the Raiders. It was not inspiring, not even remotely inspiring. The class of the NFC, and at least what we've seen so far with Dallas and San Francisco, were both just absolutely lights out today. So it's, I guess, your commentary, nothing really happened. It's kind of right, other than Joe Burrow's done for the season. Really,
a few books drifted the Ravens after that win over the Bengals because they lost Mark Andrews for the season. That was wrong. They shouldn't have drifted them, because you would have traded, I think, Mark Andrews for getting that win, I think, just because of the repercussions in terms of the division, where in the market they affect. I mean, it's coupled with the Burrow injury, and it's tough to extricate from that. But I mean, they went from basically slightly above evens to like minus 220, like after one game. That's massive. And also they get, the 1 seed feels like it's going to be between Kansas City and Baltimore, particularly given that Kansas City have the tiebreak over Miami, and Kansas City as well. They're another big winner just because they still have Cincinnati on their schedule.
Yeah,
and
true.
That is huge, because they only really had, outside of the Eagles game, which we'll get to, they had 2 really, not really difficult, but difficult-ish games left in home to Buffalo and home Cincinnati. I guess at Chargers, if you want to include that, but it doesn't feel that difficult at the moment. And the fact that one of those now goes from being, close to a coin toss to close to a layup, that is massive for the Chiefs. But in terms of the Sunday action, I mean, there's some interesting stuff in terms of futures markets and awards, and we'll get to that through the week. I think the 2 biggest takeaways from that, though, are one, Brock Purdy is now lapping everyone in the league in basically every key statistical indicator for a quarterback, and needs to be in the MVP discussion beyond my very kind of self-interested position in that market in having Purdy. But I mean, if you're leading everyone in EPA per play, QBR, passer rating on what looks like it might be the best team in football, even if the record doesn't reflect that at the moment, you have to be in the MVP mix. Myles Garrett just kind of feels like he's going to win Defensive Player of the Year at this point now that they got that really key win. I know Parsons will be heard from, but Garrett, with what that team is doing, the fact that that team now is 7-3, having started 3 different quarterbacks, and they have an easy schedule to close, and the playoffs are looking very much well, not locked up, but trending towards that position for the Browns. My only other takeaway from the slate is that I don't think Detroit are a very serious team with that defense. I understand they had turnovers, which are fluky, but these weren't fluky turnovers. These were just Jared Goff playing really poorly and just not seeing guys. So how did your opinion of Detroit change after today?
Well, I love the Bears. So kind of what I expected, which was going to be, it was an opportunity to get punked by a team that is playing a lot better right now. I guess if you want me to have a sincere takeaway here, the fact that the Lions generated over 100 yards on the ground against what has been one of the better rush defenses in the NFL in the last handful of weeks, that was impressive. Because that means that you're a little bit, if you're able to do it against a unit who is playing that well, then you're going to be able to do it against everybody. And now they draw the Packers, who you can push around, right? And so, I think the Lions will probably still be in the mix for a 1 or a 2 seed, I suppose, just because their schedule is so much weaker. But yes, that defense is hackable. If your quarterback is playing good on a given day, and your running attack, if your run blocking is going well on a given day, you're going to have success against that defense. And I think that actually, that's more of a are these guys serious contenders for a Super Bowl? And my answer would be squarely no, because of that weakness that we've now identified and is not getting better. So, there's going to be some playoff game where they just get boat raced, and it's only a matter of time.
Yep. I'd say the other thing too is that I think we can close to put to bed the CJ Stroud MVP campaign, which never felt real to begin with, throwing 3 picks today. I know he gets the win, but the reality is that he's got 4 losses already. Yeah, if he runs the slate, fine, he can be an MVP candidate, but 12-5, where he's behind to a lot of quarterbacks now in a lot of key metrics. Here's the thing: it's if you want to treat CJ Stroud as a top tier MVP candidate, then based off of that logic, Dak Prescott should be close to MVP favorite. Because if you look at his numbers, the only thing that's holding him back is the fact that he's got 3 losses relative to Mahomes and Hurts having 2 and 1. And Stroud has 4, and Dak's numbers are better than Stroud's, and he's got a better team, and he projects to be better going forward. So the fact that even that Dak is still longer in the Dak is twice Stroud's price to win MVP, which is insane. Dak Prescott is much more likely to win MVP than CJ Stroud for mine. But that sets up what will be one of the games of next week, which is Jacksonville at Houston in a game that will probably decide the AFC South, or at least go a long way to doing so, because if Jacksonville win, then they go 2 games clear of Houston. They halve the tiebreak. I believe they will have the divisional tiebreak because Houston lost to the Colts. And the Jags have been taking care of business elsewhere in the division. And then if Houston win, then they lock up the tiebreak because they beat Jacksonville in the first meeting. So that'll be a massive game, and we will get to that. Anything else from Sunday you wanted to hit on before we go to the openers?
I think one thing to comment on about the AFC South, because a lot of these other divisions are starting to feel pretty decided. AFC South is one that I do think we have to keep our eyes on. And you bring up exactly the right kind of framing for this week's matchup, which is going to be hugely impactful. But I went into the Titans-Jags game with some skepticism about the Jags offense. Right? There was a lot that they have not been showing us. And the buzz all week was Trevor Lawrence's knee injury and his mobility, and Doug Peterson's coming out and making statements about it. And there was kind of, smoke and whispers, and, people very, very concerned that this was, a pretty serious injury. He looked great today. Trevor Lawrence was incredible. He was scrambling he had purpose in the red zone. I thought that unlocked some stuff for the Jags, who have been a little bit clunky in the red zone this season. And I think Ridley finding his stride and some connection there between Ridley and Lawrence, like that's what this team needed badly. And basically every question you had going into this game about the Jags offense was answered with a emphatic, "We are good." And they did it against the Titans defense, which is, if not perfectly awesome, at least is well coordinated and has a couple of blue chippers. So, it was not a trivial thing for the Jags to do what they did today, I thought, offensively. And I think we should recognize that. So pretty impressed by that unit in general today.
Yep, Trevor Lawrence was 0.58 EPA per play, and so that's about twice as good as Patrick Mahomes' MVP season last year. So he was pretty good. He still doesn't look 100% to me, but he looks close enough to it to be able to perform and put up 0.58 EPA per play and a 91 QBR against not a great defense, but a competent enough defense where that can be impressive regardless. So I think Trevor Lawrence, that was a big takeaway just because he'd shown so little the previous 2 weeks in terms of his ability to scramble and use his legs at all. And the fact that, he was able to scramble for a touchdown, the fact that they even called a designed run for him. He didn't do a ton on the ground. He went for 17 yards, but scores 2 touchdowns on the ground. Averages 8.2 yards per pass attempt. Like he looked a lot more like Trevor Lawrence than he had the past couple of weeks. And coupled with a defense that is just really solid in Jacksonville, outside of getting boat raced by the Niners, who I think are going to do that to most teams in the NFL. We'll get to the opener in a sec, but I think they're just a better team than the Texans, and that's why they are still the relative heavy favorite to win that division. But Stroud has certainly showed a ceiling that, any home game is eminently winnable.
Yeah. I got one other question for you before we move off today's results. The Bills fire offensive coordinator Ken Dorsey last week on Monday. And in a short week, they win a convincing scoreboard, final score here. 5.5 yards per play. It didn't really feel like the offense was fixed. And I know that when you're playing with as much of a lead as the Bills were for a lot of this game, it's tough to really draw any conclusions about what to make the Bills, because the Bills have some super high profile games coming up. Like we're going to talk about the Bills every week a lot from now until Christmas. And I don't really have any specific opinions about how the offense was today, but I wasn't impressed. I guess what I was kind of looking for some feedback on is the Bills defense fixing things, or was that entirely just Zach Wilson this is it for him?
No, I don't think there's much to read into it either way. I mean, it's good that you keep any NFL team to 6 points, but bad Zach Wilson in a real bad way showed up today, a worse version than the guy that we have seen in either of the 2 Sunday Night Football games that he's played in against the Chiefs and the Raiders. I mean, he was just terrible. And I mean, the thing with the Bills too is that they've lost a lot of guys on defense, but they haven't really lost guys from their pass rush. And they've still got Floyd and Rousseau and whatever's left of Von Miller, and they were able to get Wilson under pressure, and he was just doing the thing again where he just doesn't see the linebacker, which he never sees. I don't understand the discourse around the Bills, really. I think that their offense is fantastic. Like, they have a top 3 offense by EPA per play. This is an elite offense. I don't think there's anything wrong with it outside of Allen is just going to have one moment of madness each game, and you hope it's 1 instead of 3. And apparently, his receivers against the Broncos forgot that he throws the ball really hard, and it was coming off of their hands for incompletions and deflected picks. So I think their offense is fine. Like, they have a Super Bowl winning level offense. The defense is the issue where, again, and that's the concern, is going into this game against Philadelphia next week. Dane Jackson gets concussed in the secondary. Taylor Rapp is backup safety, not that important, but Teron Johnson as well, he gets concussed. So now Taylor Rapp is better, but in the pure football sense, looking at the matchup next week, they've lost 3 more guys from their secondary after already losing Trey White, after losing Matt Milano, who helps in coverage, after losing Daquan Jones, who's a really good member of their defense. One, I think we're going to see Damar Hamlin again next week.
Yeah, Damar Hamlin time. Yep.
Yeah, get ready for his comeback player of the year price to cave again. And yeah, I don't read too much into the performance against Zach Wilson because Zach Wilson wasn't able to do anything at all against the New York Giants and hasn't been able to do anything against really any NFL team. So I think we will get some proof of what the Bills' defense is like, whether it has made any improvements against the Eagles. And I suspect that we'll find out that no, it's not very good. But their offense is very good, and they can win a shootout. But they're probably not going to be winning too many games in this manner going forward. All right, before we get to the openers, your final helping of NFL football on Thanksgiving night is a battle of NFC West foes. As Christian McCaffrey, we don't have Brock Purdy in the promo? Unbelievable. Christian McCaffrey and the 49ers travel to Seattle to face the Seahawks, plus the holiday weekend wraps up on Sunday night in a star-studded matchup. Oh, a couple quarterbacks in this promo when Lamar Jackson and the Chargers in Los Angeles. I would like to rename Thanksgiving in America for 2023 Brock Purdy Day. I hope everyone gets a full serving of Brock on Thursday night as they watch the presumptive MVP carve up the Seattle Seahawks. Anyway, we will do a full Wednesday episode dedicated to NFL games on Thanksgiving. I'll just quickly read out the lines for the Thanksgiving games. The Lions are 7.5-point favorites home to the Packers. That seems a bit too big for me. The Cowboys, 10.5 favorites home to the woeful Commanders. And the Niners, who 24 hours ago were 4.5-point favorites against the Seahawks, they are now -6. And then the Friday game is Dolphins -7 at the Jets. That's also ticked up. Does anything from that grouping or any of the Sunday games or the Monday game jump out to you as being wrong?
Man, I mean, it's a gigantic number in Dallas, Jay. They are asking me to bet the Commanders.
You don't want to do that.
It's a huge number, man.
Is it?
Yes, it's a huge number. It's a big number in Detroit. Although, as we kind of talked about, if Detroit can get their ground game going against Chicago, then it should have no problem going against Green Bay. That's probably an underlook at 46. The Niners Seattle game, I think that's Niners or pass. I don't know really what you take away from the Seattle Rams game today, but the fact that the Seattle found a way to lose that one, good Lord. This is not a serious team. They are not serious. And yet they're still probably going to be your 6th seed because that's the state of the NFC right now. But they are, they match up quite poorly with San Francisco. And if the disrespect for Purdy is palpable. He should be in the promos the way he's playing. He leads all players in the NFL this year in terms of expected points added total. Yeah. He has been the best player in football this year, Jay. Mr. Irrelevant from last year. And that includes games where he was concussed. That includes games where he was playing against the Cleveland Browns defense in just a wet storm on the road. Like, he's, even with some of these, outlier performances, he is still number one with a bullet. And he's going to give Seattle the business in this one, because there's nothing Seattle can do to match up well against this Niners team. Been looking forward to this one for a while. We talked about it in the preseason. We talked about why San Francisco was the most likely favorite to win their division. A lot of reasons here about this particular matchup not favoring Seattle. And now you add to that Seattle is being coached by Pete Carroll, who's definitely lost his fastball from what I can tell you, if he ever even had it, at least for the NFL. So Niners is the only favorite that I'm really, tuned in on here, looking at anything under 7. If I had to guess, I would say high likelihood that closes 7 or above.
Yep, I don't mind that. Yeah, look, honestly, bias aside, if I had an MVP ballot, I think my ballot would be 1 Purdy, 2 Prescott, 3 Mahomes.
Oh, Jay, come on.
Miles
Purdy and Prescott have been fine, great. They've been great, but you can't put them ahead of Pat Mahomes.
Well, he hasn't had a great year to date, Mahomes. He doesn't really, outside of being Patrick Mahomes. My thing with Mahomes MVP is that I'm projecting that he will get better as the rest of the year goes on, and he's positioned himself to win the 1 seed. But I mean, on current performance, and a lot of it is built, a lot of his flaws are around drops and things outside of his control. But I mean, and a lot of it too is the Denver game where he was sick. But I mean, that's still a game that he played, and those interceptions and that loss counts. Even if he was sick, you have to hold that against him. That's to some degree. So I don't know. I think I would vote Purdy at the moment. He's lapping the field in all key stats. And the other thing too is that no one will ever give him credit for this, but the Niners do not have a good offensive line outside of Trent Williams. And the idea that they are this superstar juggernaut, and if you put Mac Jones on the Niners, he'd be doing the exact same things as Brock Purdy. No, I don't think so. He's got one good offensive lineman, or at least one materially impactful offensive lineman, and then he's had a revolving cast of injuries, and he's still, by margin, been the most efficient quarterback and player in football. In terms of these other games, a couple others I wanted to call out. We're recording right now in the first quarter of Sunday Night Football, but the Broncos win this. I think they'll be slightly bigger than 1-point favorites against the Browns. DTR did not. I know he got them down the field at the end and he won the game, but I mean, to win 13-10 at home when Kenny Pickett was serving up that, not ultra impressive. So I suspect the Broncos probably get bigger than 1-point favorites. The Rams, with Kupp injured and under some doubt, we'll see what happens there. I'm not sure they should be 2.5-point favorites on the road at Kyler Murray. That was the other one that leapt out to me.
I strongly agree with both of those looks. Arizona and Denver as two small home chalks, or once the Rams line adjusts, I think Arizona will be a small home chalk. Both of those, as long as they're under 3 points, I think are fun bets. And it's tough to bet into a Buffalo Philly line because number one, it's not widely available yet, and we don't exactly know how Philly's going to come out of this Monday Night Football game from a health standpoint. But 47 points in that game. I mean, that's a joke, right? Like, either of these offenses is capable of hitting 40. I don't understand why the total is 47.
Yeah, no, I agree there. I kind of lean Eagles as well. We'll see, just with all the injuries that Buffalo are dealing with, and understanding that it's a shorter week for the Eagles. They're traveling back from Kansas City. They may have some injury concerns of their own after that game, but I've got some concerns about I just think of how Burrow moved the ball against the Bills. And it's not like the Bills' personnel situation is going to be any better, really, than that game. And now they go up against the Eagles, who can gash them on the ground as well. So I will need the Bills in that game for various futures positions, but not super confident, even though I do believe in Josh Allen. All right, before we get to Eagles Chiefs, a reminder that Bet the Edge isn't the only show every weekday during the NFL season. You can also check out the Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry, Connor Rogers, and me. It airs live on Peacock at noon Eastern, re-airs at 4 p.m., and it's available on our NFL on NBC Sports YouTube channel, as well as wherever you listen to your podcasts. All right, Monday Night Football. I'm scared, Drew. I'm scared. I'm going to be walking around with fear, weighing down my shoes all Monday because I need the Chiefs. I need the Chiefs real bad in this game for a variety of positions. A lot of Patrick Mahomes, a lot of anti-Jalen Hurts, a lot of pro-Cowboys, a lot of pro things that aren't the Philadelphia Eagles. Really need them to lose this game. If the Chiefs want to win by 1 or 2, by all means, just like to get the Eagles beat. And I feel relatively confident that the Chiefs are going to win this game. I think that there is a lot of low-hanging fruit in their offense that they can fix. And I think that Andy Reid off the bye, Mahomes off the bye, I think that they will be able to – I'm very confident that they will be able to score heavily on the Eagles based on what they did in the Super Bowl, based on what Dak Prescott did to this Eagles defense last time we saw them. What I'm not so sure about is what it's going to look like on the other side and whether the Eagles are just going to be running for 6 yards a carry against the Kansas City defense that cannot stop the run. Now, if Mahomes is throwing for 9 yards an attempt and the Eagles running for 6 yards to carry, then that's probably okay. But I am a bit nervous, and I'm a bit nervous too that maybe the week off has fixed whatever's wrong with Jalen Hurts' knee. So look, the Eagles are good enough that they can obviously win any given game, but I lean Chiefs here. How do you feel about this one?
Yeah, you need the Chiefs just to win. I think I need the Chiefs to win by 3.
Okay, sure. Everyone's on the side. Week together for Jalen Hurts throws for 500 yards.
Your point about the bye week giving Hurts an opportunity to get right is fair. I think it's going to take an off season, though. Whatever he's dealing with is not like a rest and recoup, make you feel better kind of thing. I don't think. That said, the Chiefs' run defense is a question mark. It's a problem. I look at it in a lot of ways schematically, and I think they're asking you to do that. And when the going gets tough, when your back's against the wall, when you have to pass on this team, it's very, very, very hard. They are playing supremely well in pass defense, and I think the one example where we saw another team playing this well in pass defense this season consistently was the Jets. And the Jets beat the Eagles, and they did it pretty convincingly, I thought, with their defense against the Eagles offense. So I could see the Kansas City defense putting up a similar effort to what the Jets defense did in terms of keeping the Eagles into the, under 20. I agree with you as well that the offense for the Chiefs is going to have a lot of opportunities to succeed down the field. Most of the issues with this offense, I do think, are just like you said, it is fixable stuff and some self-evaluation, a little bit of self-scouting in the bye week, and Andy Reid presumably pulling out some of the good plays for this game because it's such a high leverage game. I think that's realistic. That makes sense to me. I would expect that the Eagles secondary and their spine of this defense is not something that is going to get fixed overnight. It's not something that you can really scheme a way to be successful defensively against the Chiefs offense with the healthy Travis Kelce out there. I'd love to see more targets to Rashee Rice. I would like to see more targets. I would like to see more snaps for Jerick McKinnon, less for Isaiah Pacheco. I think that screen game is going to be extremely effective against this Eagles. Their aggressive front four. If you can put that unit on its heels, I think you can absolutely succeed in terms of sustaining drives. So I'm very excited to see what Andy Reid has up his sleeve in terms of screen game. And I think ultimately this is Chiefs to lose. Chiefs home field advantage is notably significant this time of year in Kansas City as well. So you got the fan support here to help you get some hard fought stops and some hard fought conversions to put this game away. The game state that scares me the most is a couple of floppy turnovers for the Chiefs early in this game and letting this thing slip away before we get to halftime. Because your point about the running game for the Eagles being able to put the Chiefs in a tough spot as they are milking the clock and putting away a lead, I think is very real. I think the most sound betting path for this game, in no uncertain terms, if the Eagles have a lead at halftime, there are going to be very few possessions in the second half. There's going to be very few points. So Eagles with the lead at halftime, I think the under is pretty solid. And just in general, I think Chiefs with the lead at halftime is solid for the under as well because of their pass defense matching up so well against the Eagles in comeback mode. So if there is a 1 or 2, a 7-7, I will say 7+ margin at the halftime of this game, I think second half under is going to be the bet of the week.
Okay, yeah. I'm not too worried about game state unless it's 5 minutes to go and the Eagles are salting away the clock and the Chiefs can't get off the field because they can't stop the run. Outside of that, I just think that Mahomes is so effective game state independent. Does game state mean Patrick Mahomes throws a bit more? Okay, that's all right. I just expect that he'll be able to succeed. There is one other interesting thing with this game to me, which is that generally in terms of just blanket trends of, the home team covers 55% of the time when they're a 6-point favorite or whatever. To me, I just generally throw that stuff out because why does it matter? Do you think that the market is just terrible at pricing home teams that are 6-point favorites? No, it's just noise at that point. But I do think there is some signal in the fact that I believe Mahomes has been a favorite of less than a field goal or a dog 20 times in his career and has covered 16 times.
Wow.
I think that is real, because what that tells me is that, one, they use the real plays, which they didn't really use in the second half against Miami as they were trying to salt away the clock.
Absolutely,
so one, they
yes.
use the real plays in real games. And then two, they just pass more often. And they crank up the pass and they put the ball more in Mahomes' hands because they understand the situation. Whereas, if you're a 9-point favorite against the Broncos or whatever, maybe you're more willing to just run the ball a bit more. But when you're a less than a field goal favorite against the Philadelphia Eagles in primetime in a game that if the Chiefs win this, they're going to be like 65, 70% to get the 1 seed. And if they lose it, then all of a sudden they fall back into a tie in terms of losses with Baltimore, Cleveland, Jacksonville, Miami. All of a sudden, the complexion of the season is entirely different based on whether they win or lose this game. So just in terms of team incentive and how they will call plays, I think we're getting all the good stuff on Monday night. I think we're getting all of Andy Reid's best stuff. I think we're getting Patrick Mahomes at his highest possible level. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to be throwing the ball more than he usually will, and I think that bodes well for the Chiefs. So everything in my head points Chiefs. My gut says the Eagles win by 2 because I'm just kind of a pessimist in general with this kind of stuff. But I do think the Chiefs will win, and I do think they will cover at home. All right, we are done. Don't forget to check out NBCsports.com for more information to help you with your wagers. Thanks for those of you watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, don't forget to rate and subscribe. And also a reminder to find all your favorite NBC Sports shows on Amazon Music. Just head to amazon.com/NBC Sports. From Jay Croucher and Drew Dinsick, go Chiefs. For the love of God, go Chiefs. And we will see you tomorrow.